Hi guys, I'm just using like a on-screen recording because every time I tried to do it the other way, my PowerPoint was backwards. So sorry about that. So my presentation topic was the stolen generations, and I found this topic extremely interesting, and I can remember doing this topic in school and I was really engaged throughout it and really loved it. So the stolen generations are identified as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children who were taken away from their families. This happened between the early 1910s and the 1970s. This legislation, this law, was put in place by the government, and it had a huge, phenomenal impact on the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community and people. They were taken away and they were put into institutions, they were fostered into other white families, and they were adopted into these families and made to be brought up like the white people. So they had to forget about their languages, they had to forget about their family, forget about their real names even. And this was all just because of laws that the government had put in place. Sorry, I should have changed that one when I started speaking. That's why they were taken. So not only were these children removed, but their families, so the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, were constantly being watched. Every move they made, everything they did was being watched by the government. So like many issues or events, there are issues based around them, historic and current. I found that the historic and current issues impacting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with this topic, the stolen generation, were very similar. So issues that they were facing back then, they were still facing today. The children, so they were forced to adopt white culture with the assimilation policy, and this meant that all children who were considered half caste, which meant they had either a white mum or a white dad and a Aboriginal mum or dad, so together, and it's a term still considered very offensive today for those people. They would be assimilated into white society because their skin was lighter than full Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, so it was easier for them to be considered as white, and all of those children were made to adopt the culture, so they were unable to use their traditional spoken language. They had to learn how to speak like the white people did, and they were given new names, so white names, different names that their biological mum and dad had given them. They were often also removed and put into institutions or camps, and they were often psychologically, physically and sexually abused in these institutions and homes. So a lot of these historic issues are still current issues today. Many of these communities have never recovered from this event. They're still suffering the traumatic experience of it still to this day, and for that it's resulted in a lot of alcohol and drug use and violence and all those types of things. So the current issues impacting Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people are, so many of the families and people that were affected, like I said, affected by the stolen generation, are still dealing with it today and still trying to get over that trauma. Because they were made to assimilate into white community, it meant that today they can feel quite ashamed of their Indigenous heritage because they were raised to forget it. They were raised to not like it and to not be like it. So then growing up and living in our society today, they're ashamed of what it is and how it's come about. Many of the children were told that their biological families had died or that they had abandoned them, and still to this day are unsure of where they are, where they were taken, or who their biological families even are. So a lot of these children lived in really harsh conditions and were punished and controlled by their families or the people that adopted them. They were given no signs of affection, so you can imagine with that they aren't shown how to care for their own children. So that means that a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children today are being raised in state care because their parents didn't learn parenting skills or how to raise their children, because when they were stolen, they were put into families and they weren't taught that. They were treated so badly that they thought that was just how it was done. The children were given such a low level of education, they were just expected to work as labourers rather than learn the basic skills like reading and writing and communication and all those things. So this often meant that once they became adults, they would have very little knowledge of how to write and read and do basic maths. So when they're trying to get jobs today, it's very hard for them because they don't have those skills that they need in those jobs. Medical experts also say that the children who were taken away develop anxiety, depression, have a lot of post-traumatic stress issues, and are at higher risk of suicide because of the trauma and the events that took place. Many of the Aboriginal communities have turned to alcohol and drugs because that's how they coped with it. That's what they did to try and heal and mend after their children were taken. So when I was researching, I found many innovations. Oh no, sorry. There was a report, lost where I was after, that the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare put out. So according to that report, the Indigenous Australians that were removed from their families were exposed to poorer outcomes than those that were not removed. So the report was made on an estimated 17,000 members of the stolen generation that were still alive in 2018. So these reports showed, that's 17,000 children that they know of that are still alive today that were stolen from their families. So these reports show evidence of poorer health and social outcomes in comparison to those children that were not removed. The reports also showed that Indigenous people who were removed from their families are more than 3 times likely to have been incarcerated in the last 5 years, and are 1.8 times as likely to have been, 1.8 times as likely to rely on government payments as their main source of income every week. These reports also give evidence that they were 1.7 times as likely to experience violent situations, again, in comparison with those children that were not removed. Before this report was conducted, it wasn't clear to the government or to anyone as to how many members of the stolen generation were alive to this day and how many people were still facing the impact of this trauma, still ongoing. So it's made it very difficult to determine and plan services to help these people. But with my research, I have found many services that are created that are found to help these people. So the first one I came across was the Healing Foundation. And the Healing Foundation is an organisation that has partnered up with the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander communities, lots of communities, to assist these people that are suffering from the ongoing trauma that they've faced. The Healing Foundation works to create a safer environment for those affected, and it gives them a chance and a place where they can share their story without being judged or without feeling scared. So since the foundation started, they've funded over 175 community organisations to help develop healing programs, and they've assisted more than 45,000 Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people into beginning their healing journey and trying to help them overcome that trauma. So I think this foundation is a great asset to the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community, as it provides them with a place that they can feel safe, gives them opportunities to share with other people and make them aware of what happened and what went on. And I think that's a really important thing for them to be able to do. The next organisation I found is the National Social and Emotional Wellbeing Counsellors Network. So this network it's a group of counsellors that provide support service for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and people that have been impacted by the forced removal of children from their families. The counsellors, they come from many backgrounds of qualifications, so mental health, cultural sensitivity, and they work with these communities to help them heal from the past and help them start their healing journey of that trauma. So this, again, a really important asset to the community, as it really helps those members who have faced explicit trauma to talk to mental health practitioners and to provide them with strategies and different coping mechanisms that can help them heal. So this program I found was really similar to the Healing Foundation. The next organisation I found, this would have to be my favourite. I found this really amazing. It's called the Marumali Healing Journey. So the Marumali Journey of Healing, it's a healing program that was created to help Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that were affected, again, by the stolen generations, and it helps them heal. So it starts their healing journey. The Marumali model offers an effective framework, structure and process that supports the healing of the survivors, so then those people that are still alive today, and obviously their families. So the recovery process of this journey involves mind, body and spirit, and it's a holistic method in their culture, identity, and reconnecting with family, community and country are the main idea and central to that healing journey. So Marumali is a Kamilaroi, so the New South Wales Aboriginal tribe, word meaning to heal or to put back together. The program was created to help increase the quality and amount of support that's available for these survivors of the stolen generation. So I think that's a different approach. I think it's really, the methods that they do, I think, can be really effective to help those people. The program offers an approach that allows the survivors to work through their pain and confusion. And again, like the other foundations, helps them to find a safe way to find themselves and their families. Parts of this healing journey include, I don't know if I wrote it, learning about the removal policies, so what the policies actually said, making sense of their memories. So obviously they have to reconnect with their memories and work through that process. They find out who their family was, and where they came from. They also face those demons, so working with these people to face the demons and develop strategies to help them cope with it. And then they working through any issues of blame that they might have, and also replacing some of the mainstream values implemented by others with relearned Aboriginal values. So they're relearning their culture if that's something that they have lost. So I think this program is great. It offers a different approach to the healing than the other foundations that I've mentioned. And the core belief of this program is that these survivors are experiencing a normal amount of human distress and suffering in regards to the trauma that they have faced. Rather than just showing signs of a mental illness or disorder, they have faced such trauma like it is expected that they are going through the things they're going through. So that's what this journey is really trying to focus on, that they're allowed to feel this way. They have a right to feel this way, but it's about overcoming it. And the last service I found was the Link Up service. So the Link Up service is a family tracing and reunion service, and that assists the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people affected by the removal of the children. So this service works with all the other foundations and services to help these people locate records, show where their children were sent, and helps them identify their family members. And again, like all the other programs, offers counselling. So it does also work with the other programs. It's a fully funded program by the government, and it's been running since the early 1980s, so just after the stolen generations ended. It also links up with and runs a foster care agency. This is where they can assist in matching Aboriginal carers with Aboriginal children that require care. So when we talked about how these children didn't learn any parenting skills and they grow up and they don't know how to raise their own children, well, this is where that foster agency comes into play, and this is where those children would go to find suitable carers. Thank you so much for listening. Let me get out of this and get back in. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. I have really enjoyed. This is a topic that I am really, really passionate about. It's just so interesting, and we don't understand the trauma that they faced. And I think these services are excellent in providing them with support and the resources to try and cope and to help us understand as well. Thank you. Please go to my forum for questions and activity. Thanks.